Imagine believing you found the one safe harbor in a stormy sea of financial chaos. The numbers on the statement look perfect, steady, predictable, comforting, no wild swings, no gut-wrenching crashes, just smooth, reassuring growth. For many victims, this illusion became irresistible. They weren't chasing the highest returns. They were chasing certainty, the one thing markets could never promise. It starts with a smile, a handshake, or a calm voice in an interview. The schemer looks like stability personified. Their office gleams, their track record appears spotless, their story sounds airtight. You tell yourself, this can't be a scam. Not here, not with them. But that's exactly how the trap is laid. The psychology is simple and terrifying. People fear loss more than they crave gain. If someone offers them an escape from uncertainty, they'll ignore the doubts gnawing at the edges. They'll even silence their own instincts. You might think you'd never fall for it, but in a moment of desperation, you probably would. The haunting part? When the scheme finally unravels, it's not the numbers that devastate people, it's the betrayal. Because it wasn't just money that vanished, it was the sense of security, the belief that somewhere in the chaos, safety could be found. And in the end, the cruelest lesson emerges. In finance, the safer it looks, the deadlier it often is. Every great Ponzi scheme has one common thread. The architect doesn't just sell numbers, they sell themselves. They don't walk into a room with desperation, they walk in with confidence. Calm, measured, persuasive. Like an actor on a stage, they know their lines by heart. Picture a dinner party where the fraudster is the star guest. Laughter echoes, glasses clink, and promises of smart investment slide into conversation as smoothly as wine into a glass. Nobody questions them, because their reputation precedes them. They've donated to charities, sponsored community events, maybe even shaken hands with politicians. To doubt them feels almost absurd. This is where greed hides behind charm. Victims don't realize they're being hypnotized, lulled into trust by personality rather than proof. Studies in investor psychology show that people make financial decisions less with spreadsheets and more with gut instinct. And scammers know how to manipulate that instinct with frightening precision. You might tell yourself you're too logical to fall for charisma, but history proves otherwise. From Charles Ponzi to Bernie Madoff, the fraudsters who fooled thousands didn't look like criminals, they looked like saviors. Because when words are honeyed and faces are calm, greed doesn't feel like greed. It feels like trust. And that is the deadliest disguise of all. Trust doesn't always come from glossy brochures or high-rise offices. Sometimes it comes from the familiar face sitting next to you in church, the colleague in your office, or the influencer you follow online every morning. That's the foundation of affinity fraud, the most personal form of Ponzi manipulation. It works because you don't question people inside your own circle. If your neighbor invests, you assume it's safe. If your pastor vouches for it, you silence your doubts. And in today's digital world, the circle has grown wider. Online communities, Discord chats, Telegram groups, all brimming with voices that feel relatable, authentic, trustworthy. But this is where the knife cuts deepest. Because when the scheme collapses, victims don't just lose money, they lose faith in people they thought they knew. Imagine walking into a place of worship and realizing half the congregation has been wiped out by the same scam. Or scrolling through your feed to see the influencer who sold you the dream has suddenly vanished. The psychological damage runs deeper than the financial. Victims are left asking not just, how did I lose everything, but how could I ever trust again? That is the cruelty of affinity fraud. It doesn't only empty wallets, it poisons communities. Because when betrayal comes from the inside, it isn't just money that's stolen, it's identity. The cleverest scam isn't one that promises the moon, it's one that pretends not to. Think about it. The moment someone offers you 1,000% returns overnight, you're suspicious. But a steady 10% year after year? That feels believable. It feels smart. That's the trick Ponzi architects understand perfectly. Investors aren't looking for jackpots. They're looking for consistency. They want to feel like they've outsmarted the chaos of the market. And so, the fraudster offers them exactly that. Returns that are just high enough to impress, but not so high as to trigger alarms. You might think you'd recognize the lie. But when everyone around you is cashing in, when the checks are clearing, when the statements keep climbing, doubt starts to feel foolish. Skepticism makes you the odd one out, and slowly, greed takes root. Not the wild greed of gamblers, but the quiet, disguised greed of smart investors who believe they've found the secret formula. And when the fall comes, it feels brutal, because victims weren't chasing fantasies. They thought they were being cautious. That's why the wound cuts so deep. In the end, it's not the wildest lies that blind us. It's the ones that look the most reasonable. Every great Ponzi needs a figurehead, not just a businessman, but a character, someone who looks the part, speaks with confidence, and radiates authority. They are not selling investments. They are selling themselves. Picture the room. A charismatic leader at the center, impeccably dressed, smiling just enough to inspire trust, yet serious enough to project wisdom. Investors lean in when he speaks. His words are not financial jargon, but simple promises of safety, stability, and vision. He's the kind of man or woman you want to believe in, because believing feels easier than doubting. This is the psychology of cult-like scams. They don't just manipulate spreadsheets, they manipulate emotions. Victims begin to see the scammer not just as a money manager, but as a savior. Loyalty replaces logic. Doubt feels like betrayal. And even when small cracks appear, delays in payments, vague explanations, people suppress their fears. Because to question the leader is to question their own judgment. You might think you'd never fall into such devotion, but charisma is a powerful drug. And in a world of financial storms, people cling to anyone who looks like a lighthouse. The cruel irony is that the light isn't guiding them to safety, it's pulling them closer to the rocks. Because in the cult of personality, the truth doesn't matter, only belief does. Imagine receiving a statement each month that shows your account climbing steadily, no matter what chaos the markets endure. While others panic at crashes, you sleep soundly, convinced you've found the rare island of stability in an ocean of volatility. That's the illusion every Ponzi scheme is built upon. The mechanics are simple. Old investors are paid with new investors' money, creating the perfect illusion of steady growth. But the psychology is far more dangerous. People want to believe in predictability. They crave it. In a world where markets can evaporate billions overnight, safe returns feel like a lifeline. This is why so many educated, experienced, and even wealthy people fall victim. It's not because they're naive, it's because they're human. The illusion of stability silences rational thought. Each deposit, each return, builds the story higher until it feels unshakable. But illusions never last forever. And when they collapse, they don't just erase numbers on a page, they shatter the sense of safety investors thought they had finally found. Because in the end, the only thing more dangerous than risk is believing you've escaped it. Greed doesn't whisper, it shouts. It drowns out logic, blinds reason, and silences doubt. Every Ponzi scheme thrives on this human weakness. Victims often saw the warning signs, but their hunger for more returns, more comfort, more prestige, kept them from pulling back. Imagine an investor holding a report that seems too good to be true. A friend cautions, a family member raises a concern, but the numbers look flawless. The scammer reassures with a calm smile. Trust me, you're safe. And in that moment, greed wins. Because the promise of riches is louder than the possibility of ruin. This blindness is not stupidity. It's survival instinct turned against us. For centuries, humans chased abundance as a way to secure the future. But in the modern world, that instinct makes us prey. Scammers know this. They don't need to trick everyone. They just need to make you want to believe. The haunting truth? The victims weren't careless fools. They were ordinary people caught in the oldest trap of all, the desire for more. And when that desire overrides doubt, the fall is inevitable. Because in the eyes of greed, danger becomes invisible until it devours everything. No Ponzi scheme grows in isolation. It spreads through networks, friends, family, colleagues, and communities. The deception isn't just financial, it's social. Each new recruit doesn't just bring money, they bring credibility. If your neighbor invested, if your boss swore by it, if your pastor endorsed it, how could it possibly be fake? Picture a dinner table in a suburban home. Friends laughing, wine glasses clinking, as one excited investor tells the others about this safe, high-return opportunity. The enthusiasm is contagious. Doubt feels awkward. And soon, the deception multiplies, not because the scammer convinced everyone, but because the victims convinced each other. This is how Ponzi schemes snowball from hundreds to thousands. It's not just the scammer's lies, it's the echo chamber of trust, where each voice reassures the next. Victims become recruiters without even realizing it, spreading the very fire that will eventually burn them. And when the scheme collapses, the betrayal cuts deeper. Not only do you lose money, you lose relationships, community, and trust. Because the cruelest trick of all is that Ponzi schemes don't just steal wealth, they weaponize your own circle against you.